There once lived a man named Arjun. He wasn't extraordinary by birth, no fame, no wealth, no great talents. But what he had was a quiet heart, a humble mind, and an unshakable sense of responsibility. He was a school teacher in a small mountain town, a place where the winds howled and the winters were cruel, but the people were warm and connected like family. Arjun had a modest life, a loving wife named Mira, a curious little daughter called Asha, and a simple house that smelled of hope and homemade bread. Life wasn't perfect, but it was peaceful. Each morning began with Asha running into his arms before school, and each night ended with laughter echoing in the kitchen. But as life does sometimes, the winds changed. It started with Mira falling ill. At first, it seemed minor, just fatigue, a fever here and there. But the illness grew persistent. Doctors called it an autoimmune condition. Treatments were costly. Arjun, who never borrowed a single coin, found himself pawning his late father's watch, the only inheritance he had. Still, he smiled. For Mira. For Asha. He took extra tuition classes, worked weekends, and still made time for bedtime stories. He didn't let the cracks show. But fate, it seemed, wasn't finished with its test. One snowy night, after a long day, Arjun returned home to silence. No lights. No laughter. Just a neighbor waiting with trembling hands. There had been an accident. Asha, chasing a stray puppy on the road, had slipped and fallen into the frozen river. They couldn't save her. That night, time stopped. Mira screamed until her voice gave out. Arjun didn't scream. He sat on the porch all night in silence, his face blank, his soul cracked open. For weeks, he barely ate. Barely spoke. The house grew colder, emptier. One morning, he looked into the mirror and saw a man he didn't recognize. Eyes sunken, beard untrimmed, heart barely beating. He whispered to his reflection, "Is this it? Is this the end of me?" That's when the first spark flickered. He remembered Asha's laughter. How she'd dance in the rain without a care in the world. How she'd once told him, "Papa, you're my hero. Heroes don't break." He stood up. Not because the pain was gone, but because he realized pain doesn't go away by drowning in it. You have to swim through it. You have to rise. So he began again. Every day, he got up and wrote a letter to Asha. He started teaching with renewed passion, not just math and science, but life, resilience, compassion. He began a community circle for parents who'd lost children. He spoke at local events about grief, about staying strong when you have every reason to fall. Mira, too, slowly began to heal. Together, they started a scholarship in Asha's name. One little girl's memory was helping dozens of others learn and grow. Years passed. Arjun grew older, the lines on his face deeper, but his eyes carried the fire of a soul who had survived the darkest storm. The moral of Arjun's story isn't just about surviving grief. It's about choosing to live after the unthinkable. It's about strength, not the absence of pain, but the decision to rise despite it. Strength is getting out of bed when your world feels empty. Strength is smiling at someone else when your heart is breaking. Strength is believing that even in darkness, light is possible. So if you're in a storm right now, if your heart is heavy, your eyes tired, your spirit dim, remember Arjun. Remember that you too have that fire. That unbreakable spirit. You may bend, you may weep, but you will not break. You were not made to give up. You were made to endure. To rise. To inspire. If Arjun's story touched your heart, take a moment to reflect. Write down one thing you're grateful for. One thing that gives you hope. And one person you can be strong for, maybe even yourself. Comment, "I am unbreakable," if you're walking through pain but still choosing hope. Like this video if you believe in the power of resilience. Share this story with someone who needs strength today. Subscribe for more tales that feed the soul. Because somewhere, someone needs to hear this. You are not alone. You are stronger than you think.